Welcome everyone to Romania Power BI Modern Excel User Group monthly meetup. Thank you for joining the sixth meetup of the year, our 17th in total, I think. We have the honor today to host one of the too few women in data, in my opinion. A very special speaker today. It's the first woman, female speaker on Romania Power BI User Group with another first data storytelling session in Romania Power BI. Thank you, Pragati, for accepting our invitation, and I'm really happy to have you on Bropod.
Thanks so much, Christian. Sorry, I didn't know I was the first women speaker for your user group last year. So kind of.
You are
so
the first.
Okay, so kind of very glad to know that. But yeah,
Well,
thanks for the invite. I mean, I always love speaking for your user group. So yeah, I'm here again.
well, even if this is your first appearance in Romania Power BI, I hope we'll have some more in the future. The Romanian and not only Romania, the entire community can learn more from you.
Thanks, Chris.
For our newest members, my name is Christian Angel, and I will be your host today. Let's go through the slide. The agenda for today is straightforward, and after this short intro, we'll go through our next scheduled meetups. Then Pragati will deliver her session, short Q&A at the end, or maybe if you want, we can do it during the session. Before the ROPAG monthly raffle with prizes from Enterprise DNA, which is our primary official sponsor, and about this a little bit later, few words. This is my usual slide regarding the technical part of the presentation. It's for the recording. Please make sure that during the session your microphone is muted and your video is turned off. Type your questions in the chat with a Q in front so we can spot them easier and address them to Pragati. If you have problems with internet connection, don't worry. Teams is recording everything, so just feel free to drop off and rejoin. And this is the note that I told you about, Pragati. The meeting is recorded. If I would have forgot to start the recording, this would be the moment. So in terms of our next speakers, in July, on the 21st of July, we will have Gasper Kamenček, an Excel MVP from Slovenia, with a session on the perfect data model. And the entire session will be done in Excel, because a lot of people don't know that in Excel, we have the same capabilities that there are in the backend of Power BI. Power Pivot is the father of Power BI. So we will have Gasper with a session on data modeling using Power Query and Power Pivot in Excel. And then in August, on the 25th of August, we will have Chandip Chabra returning to Romania Power BI User Group. He was our guest in June, I think, last year with a Power Query session, and now he's coming back with a session on DAX. We don't know exactly the title yet, but it will be something like tips and tricks related to a certain area. For all the other recordings of Romania Power BI User Group, please check the link here, bit.ly/ropag_history. You have all the sessions that we recorded until now. This one, as I said, will be also recorded and published on our YouTube channel. As I said, I wanted to say a few words about our primary official sponsor, Enterprise DNA. Starting August last year, we have this very valuable partnership. Enterprise DNA became our sponsor. They have incredible learning resources on their portal. Everything happened because of Brian Julius, whom I hope to have it as a guest in the near future. And the Enterprise DNA is offering 3 complete packages: membership and analyst hub combo on every meetup to our live attendees. And in order to get one of these, you have to fill up a form. This form, feel free to scan it, or don't worry, I will put the link in the chat during the session. But if you want to scan it, there's also in the bottom right corner of every slide the QR code. So feel free to fill up the form, participate, register for the raffle, and in the end, we'll have a raffle just before the ending. I will shout out for My Data Summit, which is a conference organized in September. Is the world's first online conference that unites speakers talking about Microsoft various technologies, focusing on Microsoft Office and Power Platform. Pragati is also a speaker there. It's a 3-day live event organized with Microsoft Product Group. A lot of speakers, Microsoft MVPs, and community experts from different countries. This conference is carefully crafted with 30 sessions that cover Microsoft Office and Power Platform topics, including Microsoft Excel, Power BI, Power Automate, Power Apps, Power Query, Power Pivot, Azure, data visualization, and everything is organized by my 2 good friends, Farash Shaikh and Ilgar Zarbaliev. In order to participate, I think this is the last day on the early bird discount, so feel free to check their website. And if you cannot do it, maybe we can talk to the guys, and as you are members of Romania Power BI user group, you can have a discount starting tomorrow, but we'll see. Coming back to the session today, welcome again, Pragati, and thanks for accepting our invitation. Pragati is a data platform MVP, Power BI community super user, and she's working in Evanet UK with a lot of other really knowledgeable fellow MVPs. She's a member of Romania Power BI user group since at least March last year, when I remember she was asking very good questions to Marco Russo during the session. We've initially met online in the Power BI community. She actually answered some of my questions on the community. But I also had the pleasure to meet her back in March in London at SQL Bits, when we've actually planned this session. She's been doing all kind of session. Oh, my slides are acting differently. So Pragati was doing all kind of free sessions for the community, speaking of many user groups and data conferences. And I'm really glad she's coming with a new topic for our user group, storytelling with data. So as I said, there are 2 firsts in today's meetup. It's the first female speaker and first session on data story. I'm really glad to have the opportunity to learn from you, Pragati. Please tell us a few words about you, and then the stage is yours.
Thanks so much, Christian. I mean, thanks for that amazing introduction. So yeah, as Christian introduced me, I mean, I've got an introductory slide. I mean, if I can just share my screen so we can just get going, if that's okay, Christian.
Yes, please.
So yeah, I can give my introduction while I'm, talking about things here. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, so yeah, first of all, welcome everyone for taking out time for my today's session. So today I'll be talking about storytelling with data in Power BI, and for me, I think the code which I've got in front of you is quite something that has motivated me to become a data analyst, because this quote was something I read, I think, some time back, and I was like, yeah, this really makes sense, right? Making sense out of data. And so I just got that here. Like, people hear statistics, but they feel stories, because you just can't present numbers in an Excel spreadsheet in front of people, right? Once you start showing them in a different way or represent them in different way, it kind of, touches them at a different level. So that's where, storytelling comes into picture. But yeah, we'll be talking about that in today's session. So first of all, thanks, Christian, for inviting me again on your user group. I think this is the second time I'm speaking this on your user group, and always have been great being here, because I always enjoy delivering session here. So thank you so much for that. So just a little about myself. So my name is Pragati Jain, and I'm a Microsoft Data Platform MVP. And as Christian also said, like, I'm one of the super user at Microsoft Power BI community. So this super user title is just a title given to people who really go and answer queries that different forum members post on Microsoft Power BI community. So I'm glad I'm among those group of people and titled as super user there, because I just like helping people on that Power BI community, because I have gained a lot from this community in last 6 years or so. So I just feel like giving back to the community in some way. So I just always try to help people I can on the community. Then I've got nearly 10 plus years of industry experience, and currently I'm working as a senior consultant at Avanade here in London. Apart from that, I'm also one of the organizer at Data Weekender Conference. So Data Weekender Conference is one of the Europe's data platform conference, and we organize it twice a year. So we had it last time on 14th May this year, and we are planning another one for the end of this year. So yeah, we'll be putting up that on LinkedIn and Twitter soon. Then I'm also the manager of Microsoft Power BI UK user group on LinkedIn. So if any of you guys really want to start your journey with speaking, and or you just feel shy, but you just can't figure out how to start, then just reach out to me, because I really feel like helping new speakers, because I myself was a new speaker an year back, and user groups like Romania Power BI user group gave me a platform to speak in front of such amazing audience. So I really like to support new speakers. So if you guys want to come and start your speaking journey, or if you are an experienced speaker as well, then you're more than welcome to deliver a session at a user group. So one fun fact about me is, like, I'm a painter, and I just like to call myself a techie artist, because I'm into Power BI technical stuff, and I'm a painter as well. So I just like to call myself that way. And apart from that, if any of you guys want to connect with me on social networking website, then I've got my blog. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Microsoft Power BI community, as I mentioned above, and I also have my own YouTube channel. So that's about me. Now, let's just, talk about more storytelling. So the first thing is, I really want this session to be more interactive. I would love to see different kind of, ideas or suggestions or views people have about storytelling, because this session is more around, based on my experience, what I really feel what storytelling is, and what kind of things one should keep in mind while converting those numbers into some meaningful insights. So I would really like to have that kind of interaction. And yeah, Christian, do just interrupt me in between if we have some questions, or if we want to discuss on any topic. So yeah, I'm happy to do that, because I really want this session to be interactive. So I really want support from audience on this session today. So yeah, let's talk about what storytelling is. Now everyone has a different way of telling story, right? Like, when we were young, our parents used to tell us bedtime stories, right? And they used to tell that in such a manner, like, it kind of created a different environment for us. When I say environment, it kind of created a different universe for me. That's how those stories kind of had an impact on me when I used to listen those bedtime stories. So something, when I relate to storytelling, that's what I feel while working into analytics. Like, you are given a spreadsheet with numbers, but you just can't present the spreadsheet of numbers to someone, right? So when I'm trying to tell them, like, for a country in this year, oil production was this much. Okay, they know this much, but can we use these numbers and generate something more out of this number? Like, how can we generate some trends so that they can understand, okay, how that oil production has been over time, or which countries the biggest oil production country, right? So those kind of insights. So for me, when someone just asks me like, what is storytelling? The simple answer I give to these people is like, turning numbers to meaningful insight is something that means storytelling to me, because numbers are numbers, okay? But when I turn them into some sensible visuals, then it kind of creates a different impact on the users or the audience I'm sharing the story with. So if you see, I've got like a simple example, I've got like 5 different columns here with some numbers going on in the Excel, but I just turned those numbers into a different kind of visualization on the right. So it kind of tells me a different kind of story, right? So that's what storytelling is. Making life easy for the audience is what we as story generators do. So we can, just give them most out of the data they have shared with us. Further going down, when we talk about storytelling, I mean, obviously, those of you guys work into this industry, you are very much aware of like how hard it is to generate the final story. So the final story, what I think, I mean, it's not just like you get the data, you generate some visuals and it's done. You need to make sure the data, what you have got is kind of in the right shape, or it has got kind of right, information in it so that you can use that information, leverage the benefit of those individual data points in that data, and try to turn that into story. So what I think is more like, when you are trying to generate a story, 80% of the time is what a data preparation is required. And the remaining 20% is more around where the data visualization happens. Because if you have got the right data, then the right data will lead you to the right results while you're visualizing it or generating those insights. But if the foundation of your data is not right, or for example, your data is not cleaned enough, or maybe, for example, there are so many missing values in the data, so many missing data points which you are not able to understand, or maybe there are outliers in your data. And once you try to start generating story out of it, then maybe it may just not lead to the right results, or, it just can't derive the right conclusions. So for me, data preparation seems to be the exact, the biggest part of the whole journey of storytelling. So get the data right and then try to generate the story. So what I think like a storytelling is about. So storytelling for me basically contains these 4 different elements. So as I said previously, data quality is something, the biggest element for me, because if the quality of data is right, I will be able to derive right conclusions. But if the quality is not that great, I may just show something wrong in my story. And the second thing, what I think is narrative. So narrative is more around when trying to understand the data in a way. So like, for example, if I'm given finance data, then I should, have that kind of understanding, okay, what this data is about, what features or elements or data points are going on, and what they really mean. And obviously, narrative can be more around how interactive you are with the other team who have asked you to generate those kind of stories. Then the third thing is understanding your audience. So whenever, just take an example, a client approaches you, they give you their data and they just ask you, can you try to find some kind of insights for us out of this data? But just that statement is not enough for you. Like, can you just try finding insights, right? You need more information, like what that data is about, what background is, what is their actual motive around generating this story. And the other thing could be like, who are the consumers of your story? Because just take an example, like, for example, if you're trying to crunch some numbers and bring some insight out of it within the people who already know data or who are already within the development industry, it's quite easy for them, to understand what you're trying to do. But for example, say the CEO of a company or the management company, if you just give them those numbers, they just won't understand it. So you have to try to create your story in that way so the users can understand it and absorb it in a better way. So try to create a story user specific. So create something which users understand, not like anything, just create something and give it to them. So you need to be very sure to whom you're presenting your story. So that's the base how your story gets creating. Then the last part for me is more around the visual design. Because as we saw previously, just presenting those numbers is not enough to tell story sometimes. So why can't we should, just make use of the visualization tools and try to make that story more interesting or more appealing from viewing point of view. So rather than numbers, let's just show them some kind of trends going on line chart maybe, or some kind of distributions going on within their data. So that's the other part what I feel is really main key element of storytelling. Anything have we got in the chat so far? Christian, because I would love if people can write their views there. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? So, it just makes me as well, learn things from you. So just, post your views, whatever we are discussing right now in the chat.
It's only one comment until now from Mohammed, and he's thinking that the storytelling, it's how you train your eye to see the opportunity and make a valuable decision.
Oh, yeah, I think that's like an amazing statement there. Train your eyes to make a valuable decision. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually the key thing around storytelling, because everyone sees data in a different way, right? I might see data from a different perspective, and someone can just see the same data with different perspectives. So I literally agree with that point, Mohammed, like everyone should have an eye to, generate that kind of decision out of the data. So what, in my view, while you're trying to generate these kind of stories based on the experiences I've done those stories for last few years, I think there are few points or few things that I would really like to share with you, like we should keep in mind while we are creating those kind of reports or dashboards in the visualization tool. So one thing what I really feel important is like, now these days when we create a report, it's not just a single page, right? These days we create multiple tabs. We have got different granularity level of information going on. Like for example, in Power BI, we go and create different drill throughs so that the user can see different level of information, or we have got so many slicers going on the reports. So users can slice and dice data for maybe say different time period or different categories or different regions or countries going on in the data, right? But what I really feel important is whenever a user opens our report, seeing some summary on the data really helps them, because this summary kind of acts as a base for them, like, okay, this is the report, this is what I can see on the report. These are my monthly numbers or yearly numbers, or these are my weekly numbers, or how is this country doing as compared to the other countries. So it kind of creates a base for them. Okay, these are the summary numbers. Let me go and drill down further or drill through further to see things in detail. So this is how you should start creating your story. Create a base for the audience so they understand what you're presenting and what you're talking about by just showing them some summary numbers, and then let them decide like at what level they want to see the information or what granularity they want to see further or dig down further based on these summary numbers. So that's what I think could really, grab attention of your audience when they're landing on a report that you have shared with them. The next thing what I really feel is like, sometimes having less on your report is just enough. I have seen reports previously where people just have like, say, 10 charts on a same tab of, I'm just talking about Power BI. So when I'm talking about visualization today, I'm talking about Microsoft Power BI. So I've seen reports where on a single tab, people have like 10 different visuals going on. And sometimes when user just lands on that tab, it's kind of hard to relate or understand what those so many things are doing on that chart. So what I literally feel is sometimes, we should focus more on the quality of information rather than quantity. So rather than showing them 10 different charts, show them 5 charts maybe, but make sure those 5 charts or 4 charts on your tab give them the right information or direct them in the right direction. Because sometimes when people see so many things in front of their eyes. Oh, sorry, did someone say something? Sorry. Okay.
I'll make sure everything
no, that's fine.
goes smoothly.
No, I thought someone asked the question. So, okay. So yeah, what I feel is like, rather than confusing users with so many charts or so many visuals on your report, I think it's very important to give them the right information. And that right information could be just in 2 charts or 3 charts rather than showing them 10 different charts where they're just not able to relate to like what's happening on this tab. So yeah, basically focus on right information, I mean the quality rather than the quantity. Next thing, what I really love doing while, creating the dashboards I work on is like, add commentary wherever possible. So like, for example, this is just a snapshot from one of the reports I did some time back. I'll be taking you through these reports in some time, but just to build up that foundation, I'm just trying to show the same report screenshot here. So what I really like doing is add some comments or notes wherever I am generating my chart. So sometimes what happens is you are not aware of like what level of expertise your user has got with this tool. So for example, you share this Power BI report with your management team and say there are 5 people in the team who really don't know how to navigate with Power BI. They have just joined the team and they are just seeing a Power BI report for the first time in their life. And they have no clue like, okay, this is the report. How should I navigate to? Right. So I always, recommend people add as many, details or commentary against different charts they can, because it just helps users on, doing the right navigation and, seeing the story in the right way. Because you have spent a lot of time in generating this amazing story, but if the users can't consume that in the right order or in the right way you want them to see it, then that story is not useful, because you created that story for those users, but those users are not able to consume that in the right way, or they're not seeing the right story that you're trying to say there. So it's always good to have those kind of commentary. So like you can see, like in these charts, I actually have a drill through going on. That's why I added right click to view artist level information. So for example, these are the high level numbers at the artist level. So these are basically Spotify trends I tried to see for different music artists around the world. And it's kind of telling me the total streams against every artist. But if someone really wants to go and see at artist level, like how this information has been over time. So there is a drill through I created on the report, but along with that drill through, I tried to give a note point there saying like right click to view artist level details. Similarly, on the country map here, I have got the similar kind of thing. Like if user want to drill through at a country level, I've given that kind of note point at the top. So it kind of, just make sure like users are navigating your story in the right order or in the right direction, and they're taking the right data insights that you're trying to show through this story. So I really recommend adding as much commentary you can on your report. Then the other thing what I really feel is like I've seen reports where people try to play around with many colors. And when they try to play around with many colors, sometimes things might go wrong. So for example, if you want to show something on your report where you're trying to show a positive or negative impact. So if we see positive from a standard point of view, positive is always green for us, right? And negative is always red for us. So yeah, good is green, bad is red, right? So whenever you're trying to do those kind of analysis, I generally recommend, use those standard colors, because if you use those standard colors, the users don't have to give that extra thought while seeing your visual. So if you're showing like obviously this on this report, what I have done is it's more around the CO2 emissions over time. So obviously, if CO2 emissions is increasing, that is bad. And if it is going down, it is good, right? So that's why if it is good, I'm showing it with a green indicator. And when it has gone wrong, I'm showing it, or it has gone up, I'm showing it with the red indicator. So when you have those kind of, differences or, standard colors going on your report, then it's very easy for the users to relate to the moment they open this tab. Otherwise, if you would use like some other colors like purple or pink or blue, then it's kind of hard to relate. Like, okay, what is the positive impact and what is the negative impact? So I generally try to use those standard colors to make life easy for the users. So that's why I recommend that while I'm into others as well. Then the other thing what I love really using in the reports is, all kind of indicators and icons. So for example, if you see this right table, here I'm just kind of showing the total price against different products by payment type. Okay, but I have got some numbers still there. But suppose if I really want users to grasp something, the moment they land on this tab and see this visual is something I can use as an indicator. So an indicator and icon is very easy for users to grasp, right? I mean, the moment I open it, I can see, okay, for e-wallet, the total price against that product is gone up. I mean, the payment method by this has been more. So that's why it has gone up. For something, it has gone down. And maybe there are some payment types for which the value remains same. So that's why we have got that yellow indicator going on, or it's like a bar just showing nothing changed. So those kind of indicators can really help users to see information. So basically, we are making their life easy here again, rather than them going on these numbers and trying to see, okay, what it has been for this product, for this payment type. We have just given them an indicator there. Okay, for this it has gone up when compared to last year, or for this it has gone down when compared to last year. So they really don't need to care about the numbers anymore. They can just use these indicators to get the insight what they're looking for. And similar thing could be like, I have got something here where I'm trying to represent the average rating of different products. So if you see here, I've tried to use some star ratings so obviously when we talk about star ratings, they are like good stars are always green, bad stars are red, and if they're okay, then they are yellow, right? So those kind of icons and, those kind of indicators can really help users to grasp that information rather than looking at the numbers. So I just love using those kind of icons and indicators in my report.
One single interruption here, Pragati. Your notes is saying that, and he's right, for standard colors, how does the cultural background influence the design choice? For example, in China, red is good and green is bad. And Russell also says that we have a set of colors in our organization for success, warning, and at risk, and that is mirrored on all the reports, so people understand the color color culture across all business entities.
Yeah, so, I think that was the next slide I was just about to come to, because I think he's talking more about the brand specific colors, right? Because there could be some brand specific coloring or schemes going on in an organization from, say, last 10 years. And obviously you just can't change those schemes for the sake of using the standard colors, right? Because people are used to seeing those colors. So you just can't go and change them that day. So yeah. So when you talk about that organizational level thing, I always suggest go for the brand specific color schemes that people are used to using. So if you are designing a report, say for HSBC Bank, try to, get all the themes or reports that they have, all the themes or color schemes that they have been using in all the documents for last, say, 6 years or so, because I know within an organization, it's very important to see that kind of belonging or relationship. So when you are presenting this kind of story for a client who have got their, brand specific things going on, and if you generate a report where you are picking up the same color schemes or, same kinds of fonts they have been using before, and then maybe say Excel reports or, some kind of different reports they have been generating on different tool. And if you use the same scheme, same kinds of fonts or, same kind of numbering format, then, those kind of things are different because they create a different level of impact, because you are just not making them think extra while using additional theme colors. You are just making them sure about, these are the standardizations you have been using, or these are the standard things you have been using, and we have incorporated the same standards by using your brand specific themes and culture here in our report. So so that question, what that came, if I understand that correctly, it's more around the brand specific colors. So when we talk colors, these standard colors change completely when you are working on a report which is for a brand, or where people are really keen to adopt their brand colors that have been going through in their organization for years. But yeah, these standard colors can really be important in certain scenarios where, you know, you're just trying to showcase some kind of stories, right? Like people these days, I see they just try to generate different dashboards or reports for to create their portfolio, right? And I have seen many reports on LinkedIn that people post, right? So sometimes I really feel if people use these kind of, you know, standard colors, it kind of just makes things easy for me to understand, okay, what they're literally trying to show. So yeah, when we talk about standard colors, it is for these kind of reportings. But yeah, but yeah, like there could be some clients, they are not very much into using their brand specific themes, right? So in that case, I will still suggest using standard colors because they know positive is green and negative is red, right? So it just makes things easy for them. But yeah, definitely when you're working for a client who are very much into like, please adopt all the themes and schemes that we have been using for last few years, then yeah, I always say, because that brand specific coloring makes so much difference to the report, because this is like a simple white canvas report I have just created. Obviously, it's not something brand specific. I just created it for a test. But when I give a different background to it, those colors and those numbers look at a different level, right? So yeah, try to stick to the brands, what that organization is using. Try to use them and adopt their schemes and color schemes.
There is one more comment regarding accessibility, and I'm not sure if you are covering it in the following slides with the color blinded.
Color blind. Okay, yeah. I know that. I think I always had that in mind that someone will come to me. I actually don't have that in my slide today, but I totally agree. When you create those kind of color specific reports, right? Or you try to use different kind of colors in your report or try to use different backgrounds, you should always keep that in mind. Like people who have color blindness, so if they see this report, what happens, right? So you should keep that thing in mind. Apologies, I don't have that in my slide today, but yeah, that's a very good point, whoever made that in the chat. That's one of the key things we as report designers should keep in mind, because not everyone is like us. We need to think about others who just can't see colors in the same way we see them. So yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for adding that, whoever added that in the chat.
Yeah, Oakley was highlighting and saying that Microsoft are now tending towards blue, like good, and brown as bad, as opposed to green, red, because of the color blindness.
Yeah, I think I've heard that, Oakley, but I really don't know how much we are going to. I mean, it would be really great if we can start using that kind of standardization, but I mean, just think from the point of view like people who have been used to seeing green as good from last 10 years and red as bad from last 10 years, it will be tough for them to adopt that brown and blue schemes. But I'm sure if we use them for the sake of the people who are colorblind or just can't see the colors the way we see, then maybe it's something we just need to adopt. But I think it will take some time for us to get used to it. Sure.
Yeah, and icons can also be an option.
Yes.
Together with the colors,
Yeah,
different
exactly.
shapes for different things could potentially help the color blinded.
Definitely. That's another very good point, guys. Yeah, definitely. That's a good point to be noted. Yeah. Indicators and icons can just be savior for some of the reports, right? Like if you don't have colors, that's fine, but still indicators can be really a good part of storytelling that can really enhance and take your story to a different level. Okay, do we have anything more or shall I continue?
No, we can go on.
Okay, cool. Okay, so next thing, what I really like having in my reports is tooltips. Now, for example, the report, what I have got here, it's a GIF image, but I'll show you the report after a few minutes. So what I have got in this report is I've kind of got like spark lines going on here. Excuse me. So spark lines kind of show me something, but still they don't show me the real picture, right? Of what's happening with CO2 emissions for that country. It kind of shows me some trend, but then it kind of goes flat, right? So I still need to add some additional information there because I really don't want my users to take that information in the wrong way. Like CO2 emissions like increased till certain point and then they just went flat. Maybe there's something behind that which is making that, right? So in certain situations, it's always good to add that tooltip kind of thing, because it just adds a little more clarity to the information that you're trying to represent. Say in the chart that I've got here, it's a table visual. I've got emissions over time represented at spark lines, but obviously it's not telling me everything I need to know, or sometimes it may just be useless for some of the users, right? So adding that additional tooltip just gives me the right data insight I want to tell them against that country. And similarly, on this line chart, I can see like I've got just some data labels going on. Okay, for this country, the total CO2 emissions over time was this. But the user can be, what do I do with that information? Tell me something more. So like, for example, I added a tooltip there, which kind of tells like top 10 countries for that year with the most CO2 emissions. Okay, so that at least tells you some kind of story. Okay, within that year, these countries were really not doing great with their CO2 emissions. So that's why I really love adding the tooltips there, because it just, again, saves more effort from the user side. They just hover and then they can see some additional data insight or additional information that we want them to see at that certain data point. So yeah, add tooltips wherever you can, because it just looks good as well, and also tells some kind of things about you as well, like how good you are at presenting your information, or how easy you want to make that presentation of information for the users. So yeah, add tooltips wherever you can. It just adds to your storytelling. And I think the next thing what I really follow for some of my reports that I've done before is like, so like at every tab, when user lands on a certain tag on my report, I try to write some kind of key insights at the top of the page. So what that helps user is like, they just land on the page and they can just read those key insights, like, okay, what's happening in this data? What are the proportions they are seeing at an overall level, or what's going on? Which country is doing worse? Which country is doing best? Those kind of key insights can really help them. And once they see those insights, then they can further go to your charts and drill down or drill through on those charts to, see that information at a different granularity. But that key insights gives like a straight information to the user without getting any confusion. So it's always good to add some kind of summary. So I always add these summary KPIs as well at the top, because these kind of summary KPIs, again, gives users something at the top of the data, like, okay, this is what's happening overall. Okay, now let's see what's going on in detail. So then these visuals are the ones that will help you help the user to go further down or drilling through that information and try to investigate why this is really happening. So those kind of summary KPIs along with some kind of summary key insights at the top of the tab can really help users to understand what's really happening the moment they land on your report or dashboard. Then the other thing what I really feel, okay, something really bad. Sorry. The other thing what I really feel is like, we should not complicate report for the users, and just take it like as a responsibility, like we as an analyst or report developers, we need to make life easier for our users, right? I keep on telling that we need to make life easier for the user rather than confusing them with the numbers we have got in the report, right? So I really like this picture. I think I saw it a few years back and I keep on using it whenever I can. So you can see like this guy is telling them like, yeah, see a new dashboard. It has got so many key KPIs to track the information. But maybe as a user, I may just say, okay, there is too much going on here. What do I do with it? Because I don't understand anything. It's just so many things on the same page, right? So that's why let's not add that clutter to the information that we're trying to, navigate to the users or, give it to the audience. We should be more like specific to the points, try to generate some specific summaries rather than generating hundreds of things on the same page. Otherwise, the users will just go crazy, like what's happening on the report, because they have no clue about what's happening and what is on the report. So yeah, just try to make their life easier around when you're trying to generate those kind of reports. Okay. Okay, so let's see some report now. So anything more have you got in the chat, Christian, so far?
No, nothing in addition to what we've talked already.
Cool. So let's see one of the report I created some time back. I mean, I've got 2-3 reports I can show you, like where I have kind of, tried to use all these things what I just discussed about, and on what level they make a difference while a user is seeing that report. So let me not show it to you in PowerPoint. I actually use this PowerPoint. I'm not sure how people are finding this PowerPoint embedded Power BI report, because when I'm trying to share my, present my screen, this report just goes blank. I'm just not able to use it. And it only works, when I'm trying to, when I'm not in the presentation mode. So I'm not sure what everyone has got views about this, or maybe I'm just missing something, so not able to use it. So when I'm not in the presentation mode, it kind of gives me the navigation within the report. But let's see that in the web browser. OK, I've got another report open first. Let's see this first. So yeah, when we were talking about storytelling, so I highlighted few things, like what I really generally like doing is like, so as a user, when someone lands on this report, I've actually got some of the summary numbers going on here. So let me give you a little background. So what this report is about, it's more about global oil production and consumption. So I have got some data regarding oil production and oil consumption from the countries around the world. And I have just tried to analyze that information, like just to see what countries are really the biggest, oil producing countries, which are the biggest oil consuming countries. And even I've got some data regarding oil reserves, like which countries have the biggest oil reserves in the world, those kind of analysis. So what I did was I just took this data, and the first thing what I did on the dashboard or on this report is, when someone lands on this report, the first thing they see is this kind of summary going on. So you can clearly see, OK, the data that we are analyzing in this report is between 1980 to 2020. I have analyzed data for in all total 46 countries, and the metrics that I've been using for analysis are these 3. So this is like kind of the base for the users, like, OK, what data you're working with, what date ranges you're working with, how much data you have analyzed, what kind of metrics you're going to use to present that story. And then here what I have got is I've just got like top 5 countries by oil reserves, oil production, and oil consumption. So it kind of gives user a high level information around, OK, these are the top 5 countries with the biggest reserves in the world. These are the biggest oil producing countries, and these are the biggest oil consuming countries. And then further, what we can do is like, OK, when they have these high level numbers, let's just go and see what's really happening here, right? So suppose you have given those users, OK, these are the top 5 oil reserves in the world, but then I've got a button here which kind of, if user clicks on it, it will give more information around oil reserves. So if I click on it, then it takes me to a page where obviously I'm just using map visuals here because it's more demographics data. And what I have just got here is like at the top, you can see like I've got some kind of commentary going on. So we talked about commentary. And especially when I write commentaries in my, reports, I try to use colors that are really catchy. So, users can. So once user land on this page, they can just suddenly see, OK, there's something in the yellow or there's something in the red going on. Obviously, those coloring should go with the theme you are using to create your reports, but try to use the colors that can be easily identified when users just land on the page. So like, for example, I've just got some kind of commentary going on, like to get a summary on production and consumption trends, use navigation on the left. So I've got navigations on the left if I want to further go and see production and consumption analysis. Then I've got another commentary going on, like if the user hover over the map visual, then at the top right corner, click on the question mark icon to get the list of top 7 countries. So for example, if we see this map visual, if users hover over it, there's a question mark icon on the top right. And if they hover over it, they can see top 7 countries by oil reserves. So that's the kind of commentary where it can help users who are using Power BI for the first time, and they really don't know how things can work here in this tool, right? Or once they're seeing this report. So these kind of things really help them in navigating in the right way and using the information that you have presented and consuming it in the right way, basically. And similarly, like we talked about some key insights. So just having some high level key insights can really help users to understand what's going on within the data before, drilling down in anything here, right? So that's why I've got those kind of key insights over here. Now let's go and see about production, like what kind of production analysis we have been getting over time. So again, I've got some commentary there. I've got some key insights there. And then, yeah, I think most of you are aware of this play axis in Power BI. So I have got that play axis going on my time period. So I'm looking at the data from 1980 to 2020. So it's kind of telling me how different countries have been, growing over time. And you can see like how different, like Saudi Arabia has been one of the biggest oil. So this is basically oil production versus oil reserve. So Saudi Arabia seems to be higher on the oil reserve side. So you can clearly see like US, which is not higher on the oil reserve side, but still it's one of the biggest oil producing countries, right? So those kind of insights can really help us with these kind of, simple visualizations, but still with some kind of key insights going on at the top. Because these visuals, I mean, if you create simple visuals for the users, they are pretty easy for them to understand. But when you have so many things going on, sometimes it can just make users confused about the information you're trying to represent. So it's always good to, direct them in the right direction so they see the story the way you are trying to navigate that story to them. So that's why these simple things kind of really help us with driving the story that we want to tell it to the user. Similarly, if we go to the consumption side, we can again see the similar thing going on. I've got some commentary over here. I've got some key insights. Again, if I play the button, I can see how oil production and oil consumption have been over time. So we can clearly see US has been the massive one here. Then Russia has been higher on the oil production for a certain time, but then Saudi Arabia has just come up. And I think one key insight what I really had here was there's a country called Venezuela. It wasn't visible until 2000 and it suddenly came up after 2000. And that kind of, gives a pretty big evidence on maybe they just kind of discovered some kind of reserves in their area or something like that. That's why you can see them on that axis going on there. But yeah, these kind of, simple insights can really help user understand what's really, going on with the stories. So this was like one of the dashboard that I really wanted to show you. And the other one, what I can show you here is the CO2 emission analysis. So this was something I did some time back. And yeah. Do we have anything more in the chat, Christian?
There is a question from Claude.
Mm-hmm.
My colleagues use the filter pane on the right in the report instead of slicers. Is this recommended or are there any disadvantages or not for users? What's your advice?
I think that filter pane on the right that Microsoft has introduced, I think a long time back, I think that's really helpful. I really like using it, but sometimes it is hard because when you are training users or your clients, I mean, that what I have experienced previously with my clients is like they really use like different kind of terminologies. Like, for example, we as Power BI developers know what a slicer is and what a filter is, right? But when you're trying to tell them these things, they are not able to relate them because they are not used to seeing slicers and filters at two different entities on a report. They feel like slicer and filters are same. But what I generally train my users is like, if there are so many filters that I need on my report, like for example, one of the report I think I showed on my presentation, that's the old report. So on this report, if you see on the left, I've got like 6 different, slices going on. So there are 6 different slices going on here, right? So rather than having them on the page, it's good to have them on the filter pane on the right, because these are just categorical kind of, filters going on. But suppose if you have got some kind of filters or slicers where you are trying to give users capability to slice and dice their data with dates, so like date slicers. So I always prefer putting date slicers at the top and rest of the categorical slicers in the filter pane, and then, further train the users to how to use that filter pane. Because if you end up adding, say, 10 different filters or 12 different filters on the page, it will look really bad, right? So I try to use filter pane for additional filters, but when I'm trying to give users a slicing and dicing by date, I try to keep it on the page as a slicer. So that's how I use it, and that's how I recommend and then further train the users. But yeah, keen to see how others use filter pane or slicers in their reports, because everyone can have different views around it.
Yeah, in your example there, I think the filter pane was a hidable one, right? You had a button on top that you can hide, so you don't have to occupy space from the report with those filters.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and obviously you can make use of bookmarks to get that kind of interaction, right? You can have all your filters on the left and then somehow have a bookmark going on. So so there's an icon for the filter. If you click on that, then that filter pane opens up. It's in the similar way that Microsoft has given us, but this can be easily achieved by bookmarks as well. But these days I just feel like, why to have so many bookmarks? Because bookmarks just add so many complexity, right? So in certain cases, I try to use filters, because I have seen reports where there are like 20 or 30 bookmarks going on, and someone just tells me, now fix this report because one of the bookmark has gone wrong. And I'm like, how can I fix 25 bookmarks that someone else created, right? So I always avoid using bookmarks wherever I can, and try to put those filters in the filter pane, because yeah, we can use this filter pane for slicing and dicing our data.
Yeah, for sure. And you were saying about filters and slices and end users. Actually, it's the same story with report and dashboard. Or
yes.
yeah, the eternal discussion: is this a report or a dashboard?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the terminology we guys are like using it like in a very confusing way. Like generally in Power BI, we create reports, right? These are the reports we create, and this is what we share with the users. Now, dashboards only come into picture when we really want to do something with the alerts or those kind of things, right? So I agree, like it is kind of really hard to explain it to your user what a report is and what a dashboard is. But I think ultimately everyone gets to that level when you're working with a client, right? You train their users, you make them comfortable with the technology or the tool you're working with. But yeah, I think, Christian, there are some discussions which are more like never ending discussion, because you can, like the slices and filters thing, you can actually have a panel on this topic. Trust me. And similarly, dashboard report, you can actually have a panel on this, invite some experts and just have a panel and just initiate that discussion. And I'm sure if there are 5 people on that table in your panel, every one of them will have a different way of doing things in Power BI, because everyone deals with different kind of clients, right? And they have got different requirements and the way they want to get that report rolling in their organization. So many people just adopt different approaches to create those kind of solutions. So I'm definitely sure everyone will have different views, and it will be like an amazing panel if you go for.
Fernando just said it brilliantly in one line. Data-centric, call them reports, but with clients, dashboards.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you're right. I mean, we as report developers know the terminologies, right? So we call them report. But yeah, when you talk about client, they'll be like, can you generate this dashboard for us, or can you create this dashboard for us? But yeah, how can we explain them? It's not dashboard, guys. It's a report. But yeah, I won't comment much further on that, because it's a sensitive topic as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, this is the another report that I was talking about, guys, where I was talking about like how tooltips can also really help a lot. I mean, obviously on this report, I've got same things going on. Like on the left, I've got some kind of commentary, like the data on this report is 1920 to 2020. The CO2 emission unit is billion tons, because it's good to, specify these kind of things rather than creating measures by, appending the value with the unit. Obviously, billion tons is not something you can get in Power BI. It's not a standard unit available, right? So you'll have to come up with a DAX measure to show that information, clubbing both the things, right? So rather than doing that, writing those complex DAX, statements, I prefer writing these kind of things in the report because, I mean, trust me, guys, honestly, I avoid DAX wherever I can because DAX can sometimes really go crazy on the report, especially by a developer like me who really don't have that expertise in DAX. So I literally, avoid using DAX expressions wherever I can and use just quick measures. But whenever things like this come, I just make use of the commentary or additional, statements or note points that we can add on the report. Then again, see, like on the right, I've got that scroller. It's a custom visual, but yeah, I somehow really like that because I've seen trading organizations that have got on their screens like Bloomberg, they have got like the trading prices going on for different, stocks and everything. So I really like that thing. So, it kind of gives a high level number to the user, what's happening with this country, how much CO2 emission this is when compared to the CO2 emission at a global level, right? So I really like that scroll bar in that way because it again adds to the summary that you're trying to represent on the information. Then again, we talked about the spark lines, right? So you can see like in this report, I've got emissions over time with my spark line visual. And obviously you can get spark lines in two ways. One is you can represent them as these bars or you can represent them as lines. But I prefer using bars sometime because most of the times I've tried using those lines in spark lines. They just tend to be showing me like flat thing. I mean, they never show me trend or something I can, understand. So I always try to use these kind of bars rather than those lines. But these bars or these spark lines are not alone enough to give the right information because again, you don't see really the trend you would expect for a country or a region, right? So I always try to add tooltips with the spark line. So for example, if I hover over United States, then there is kind of a tooltip going on showing some more details about that country, like, okay, the CO2 emissions have gone down when compared to 2019. And total CO2 emissions this country has had so far since 1920 to 2020 is 940K in billion tons, obviously. And then you can see a trend going on between those years for this country. So it's always good to, add those tooltips to add that additional information there. And yes, I especially use it with spark lines because I honestly don't like spark lines much because they just don't add much to the information, but it's kind of good to represent in some scenarios just to show overall trend, what's going on, is it going up or down? So it kind of helps in that way. Sorry, is someone saying something or has a question?
No, someone is not muted.
Not muted. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. It's very low, so it's fine. Then the other thing, yeah, as I said, tooltips. Yeah, tooltips can really help in understanding information. So if you remember on one of the slides, I said where we should use tooltips. So for example, this line chart, it kind of just tells us like, okay, what's the overall CO2 emissions for every year? But what do I take from this information? It's not giving me much, right? So why not add some additional information for that individual year so that when user hovers over that data point, they see some additional information going on. So like, for example, for year 1992, we can see the top 5 countries with the total CO2 emissions. So that kind of gives user some kind of information. Okay, these are the top 5 countries which are really not doing great with controlling their CO2 emissions in 1992. And then over time, they can again see the trend. So like one insight, what I really found on this chart was, if you see since 2002, 2000, 2001, and 2002. Okay, so since 2002, if you see Germany, Russia, Japan, China, and United States, these 5 countries are the ones with the most CO2 emissions, okay, till 2002. And if you go to 2003, Germany suddenly disappears and India makes its presence. So that's the insight what I found in this year, like something has really gone better with Germany or something has gone bad with India, like they suddenly increased their CO2 emissions and now they are in the top 5 countries of the world with the most CO2 emissions. And if you see further down, India is currently on 5th position, right, in 2003. But if you go further down, India has actually changed its position from number 5 to number 3. So India is the third most country in the world with the most CO2 emissions, followed, for obviously China and US are the top ones, and they are followed by India. So India has really done something wrong, or they're really not aware of how much CO2 emissions they are actually adding to this environment. So that's the kind of insight I found from this chart. So this insight when I found only after adding this tooltip. So I got this tooltip for this line chart, and suddenly when I started scrolling over the different years, I just realized suddenly, okay, Germany has just gone out of the top 5 countries. It's India which has been added to the top 5 countries with most CO2 emissions. So that's why these kind of tooltips can give that kind of additional information to the user. So it's always good to have something going on your report, so users can just get that information. And even these kind of things, you can write it as at the top as the key insights as well, like we saw on the other report, like how the CO2 emissions have been over time for these top 5 countries. Then again, adding some kind of drill throughs can also really help. So like, for example, on the right, I've got this chart going on, the composition chart. And if you go and drill down, say region specific information. So the reason why I drilled through to this region was because if I go back, sorry. Okay, something is wrong with Teams. My web-based report is quite slow. Okay, so you can see on this right chart, all the top 3 regions with the most CO2 emissions, like North America, then Europe and Central Asia, and then East Asia and Pacific. Now, the reason why I went into Europe and Central Asia was because I really wanted to see what's going on there, because it's the one with the most CO2 emissions. So I can go into region specific information. And yeah, I really like to add sometimes, the footer on my report. So like, for example, the reason why I added footer on this report was, so this CO2 emission data is something which is freely available online. I can share the link as well if you guys want to play around with it. So in this data, it was quite interesting. So the CO2 emissions can happen from different resources, right? Like it could be through coal, through oil, through gas, and there were so many things going on. So what I technically did was, on this report, I just considered the CO2 emissions coming only from these 7-8 categories. So it is coal, oil, gas consumption, cement, flaring, and trade. And rest of them I just club as unknown because there were so many categories and I really don't wanted to analyze them. So I just came up with few of them and just took them. So these kind of footers on your report can really, add to what user is seeing, right? Because if you reveal that thing to user, like what this story is considering or what are the assumptions on the data we have taken to create this story, it's kind of easy for them to, understand it in a better way. So yeah, I really like putting these kind of footers as well on my reports. Now, similarly here, I've just got at a region level what top 5 countries are with the most CO2 emissions. Then on the right, I've just got a map visual with pie chart illusion, I should say. So it's like a bubble. Basically, it is split by different kind of, CO2 emission type. On the right, I really like this chart because I tried to come up with this year-on-year emission growth rate, and it kind of tells me a very good story here. So for example, if you see like over time, the CO2 emissions for different countries, you can see like how their change has been when compared to the previous year. In 1990, something really went wrong, and I have no clue what has gone here wrong, because every country has just spiked up their CO2 emissions. I mean, one thing what I can really think of is maybe they were not aware of how to, track the CO2 emissions. Maybe in 1990 they started tracking that CO2 emissions, but still that doesn't make very much sense, because since next year most of them have gone down. So in 1990 maybe something has really gone wrong, or something happened that really spiked up the CO2 emissions for most of the countries here. And further down, if you see, their growth rate has gone a little down. So you see most of the countries, their growth rate has gone down. So it kind of indicates a positive indicator. Basically, they haven't eliminated their CO2 emissions, but still these countries have started taking some precautions around controlling their CO2 emissions. So that's why that growth rate is kind of declining. But hopefully in future, if we continue to do that, maybe one day we can just eliminate that. Hope for that soon. And then similarly, like when I was talking about the standard colors, right? So this dashboard or this report is more around CO2 emissions. Now, all of us know CO2 emissions are bad for the environment, right? So if CO2 emissions are high, they are bad. So yeah, red color makes sense. Like Russia has got the most CO2 emissions. That's why I've indicated it as red. But a country here like Belgium or Romania, they are still under green color because they have got very less CO2 emissions, right? So that's why they have been represented as green. So yeah, there are few things here, but still, I like to use these kind of standard colors here, like red is bad and green is good. So it kind of tells them, okay, more CO2 emission is bad, definitely. That's why it is represented as red, and green is less CO2 emissions, which is good. And then sometimes I really like to show on a trend, a color scheme, like, so you can see it's a heat map kind of visual, right? So you can clearly see how Russia has been over time. It has been pretty bad over time. And then suddenly after 2019, they have tried to improve their or control their CO2 emissions. So that's why it is like going light from red to orange. And similarly, you can see Germany. Germany has really done well. I mean, after 2019, they are really there, I mean, in controlling their CO2 emissions. I mean, they have really gone from bad to good. So those kind of insights can really help. So rather than keeping them as numbers, so like just imagine you had numbers here showing them, and it's like hard for users to understand numbers, right? So try to create that story using these kind of color codings or schemes that they can easily understand. So that's why I stress on using those standard colors, because when you use standard colors, it's easy for users to understand. But when standard colors are not there, it just messes around with the information that you're trying to, convey to the audience or your users. But yeah, this is very much different to when we work on a dashboard or a report, which is brand specific, because brand specific schemes and themes are totally different to when we generate these anonymous dashboards. So they have their own level of, good practices that one should follow. So yeah, that's what I see is around this. And yeah, adding those drill throughs really help, because like, for example, on this right chart, we could clearly see Europe and Central Asia is really doing bad. So you can go and drill through and see, okay, why it is doing bad, and try to investigate further or see information further how it has been for this region. And even at the region level, like for example, Russia is really doing bad, right? And see, Germany is also not far from that. So let's see what Germany is doing. So you can actually then go and see that country specific information. So basically you are showing user information at a certain level, and you are showing those numbers in certain way or representing that information in certain way that users get motivated to further drill through to the information and investigate more and find out more. Okay, what is happening with this country? Why it is really doing bad, or why it is really doing bad? So that's why it's very important to represent information in a right way at a high level, so users are motivated more to dig down further and see, okay, what is really going on and what's really causing it. So I think guys, that's what I really wanted to share with you, because when Christian approached me for a session, and I was like, I would really want to share some of the experiences or things I've been doing with the reporting in some time, and I really thought maybe just sharing some kind of insights or some types of good practices that I've been following for last few years, creating these reports could be a good thing to share to the users. And though I know most of you will have more views around how these things can be done, or how these things can be improved, because everyone has their own way of generating reports or writing reports or creating reports. But yeah, it's always good to share that kind of knowledge and even have this as a more interactive session, so we can share with each other what you guys follow, and do they or the best practices that I've been following for last few years are going wrong somewhere. Should I improve them? So I think that's what the main agenda for my today's session was, guys. And yeah, happy to take any more questions if there are.
Thank you very much, Pragati. It was a great session. We really loved it. I think we've actually touched all of the points. I made some notes here. It was the question about the right pane and the slicers.
Yeah.
Sue from the chat already answered. There were some other things that are worthwhile mentioning, like storytelling isn't how you train your eye to see the opportunity and make valuable decision.
Yeah,
I loved the interaction in the chat, and whoever wants to add something, now it's the time, because we will move to the raffle, the Enterprise DNA raffle, and the comments in the chat are great about your session. Thank you very much for your session, and it was a pleasure to have you with us, and we are really looking forward to have you in the next meetup.
Thanks so much, Christian, because this was the first time I was delivering the content like this. So yeah, thanks for giving me that platform to share that content in a different way. So yeah, thank you so much.
Anytime. Our user group is open anytime. If you have a new session you want to try out, we are here, no problem.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And yeah, thank you guys for interacting that much in the chat. I'm just going through the chat now, but yeah, feel free to drop me a message on LinkedIn or Twitter. What do you think about the session? And do please give me a feedback. You can reach out to me independently on LinkedIn. I'm happy to take that feedback as well, because it will just help me in improving for my next session. So feel free to reach out to me. What are the good things that you found in the session? What were the bad things, or what was missing in the session? What I could have just included in the session to make it more interactive or more better. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Now moving to the Enterprise DNA raffle, just real quick, until now we have 15 answers with 13 participants. Let me refresh the report once again, because as we are a Power BI user group, because of course the report it's in Power BI. This is actually collecting data from a form with Power Automate, writing in a SharePoint, and then this report is looking in that SharePoint list to get the data out. Inside this report, we have a Power Apps, which was normally randomizing the IDs to get the winners, but since a few months now, I discovered a bug and haven't had the time to fix it. Therefore, we will use a different way of extracting the winners. So we have 14 participants in the raffle, 816. Let me bring the wheel of names. This is how we will get the winners. 14 participants. Let's put them, all of them here. Actually, 15 participants. One more just arrived. Copy, paste. Let's shuffle the names so we don't have anything to do. And now let's see who is our first winner. Andrada from Romania. Congrats, you are our first winner. Let's shuffle again. Sheikh, you are the second winner. Congratulations. And now for the third winner, let's shuffle everything again on the raffle. Nikesh, you are our third winner. Congrats to all of you. And I'll send an email after this meetup just to confirm your email addresses. And then we can do the entire process registering to Enterprise DNA. Thank you again, Pragati, for coming to our user group. Thank you everyone for joining who joined this session, and looking forward to see you all again next month, and Pragati in a different session in the future.
Yeah, definitely, I'll prepare something new again, Christian.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone. Have a great evening or night. Bye.
Bye.